All right, we are live, and welcome to episode 2 here at Behind the Wheel. My name's Jordan, the founder of Gen Physio, and I'm very excited to bring you guys guest number 2 on the show. So, who we have here is, and I've got permission to say this, but if Jason Statham was an OT, his name would be Brad Joyce. So, really excited to bring Brad onto the pod today and really wanting to get to know who's behind the wheel and Brad's journey himself as an occupational therapist. He's now a regional clinical supervisor. He's climbed the ranks quite quickly in his own career, and that's uh, not just luck, but a lot of hard work. And also, Brad has a pretty interesting sort of background himself. A bartender, a radiology assistant, working in aged care, volunteering as a carer, and I believe the list even kind of went on as well. But without further ado, I want to introduce Brad. And Brad, welcome and good to have you on board. And thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. It's really nice to be here. And yeah, like, why would I not think that's awesome? Jason Statham. What a legend. I hope I can live up to that. I don't think I'm half as cool, but we'll see how we go.
And what are your martial arts skills like? Did you take any
Uh,
classes growing up?
Abysmal. That's why I lift weights, so that I don't have to do that.
You got to go the intimidation factor, and then you
Oh,
don't even have to
100%.
worry about the actual execution in case something happened, because it
Exactly,
won't.
exactly. 100%. It's all intimidation, so that when we get up to that point, it's as much a surprise
Yeah.
to them as anybody else when I turn tail and run away.
Oh, that's good. No, it's good laugh and great to start with a bit of humor as well, Brad. Both you and I have known each other for a little while now. I know we actually it would have been 18 months ago, maybe even longer now that we had a day out on the road. So it was
Mhm.
good to get to know you personally, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that with a lot of our team members. Obviously, we're growing and things are changing. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping this podcast will be able to introduce certainly a range of different team members, but I know you fairly well, and obviously being one of our leadership team members, which is yeah really great to have you on board. So my first question: what drew you to being an occupational therapist? What excited you about the world of OT? Whenever I ask this question, everyone has a little bit of a different story, and I'm very interested to hear what drew you to being an occupational therapist.
Yeah, and we all have different stories, I think, because OT is so diverse itself.
Mhm.
But I think for me in particular, as we were speaking before, you said a little bit of my background. I've done like aged care. I've done first aid. I've been in the radiology office for a little bit. I was with the paramedics for about a year for that before I realized that really wasn't for me. And then kind of settled on OT. So I was always really geared towards the health industry itself. And I think even from a young age, I kind of set myself up for success in that industry where it kind of made sense. And then in that space, as you said, when I was doing like a lot of bartending and stuff like that, I also had like a big sort of diverse casual workload as well because I was always very independent. Um, so a lot of casual work while I was doing my bachelor's and my master's. So I did like construction work. I was like working in the back of
Wow.
kitchens and stuff like that. Yeah, bartending, bottle shops, you name it. I've done it. A bit of retail in there. Never made coffee. I wasn't much of a morning
You're not a
person. I think
barista in your previous life?
no, I would have liked it, I think, being a barista, just not the hours. But I always said to myself that you can tell a lot about a job by the people who do it. And I always said when I was in my full-time career
Mm.
going forward that I'd never take a job where the people who were doing it seemed miserable. And every OT I've ever met have all been really lovely, passionate, excited about their job. I had two friends who were OTs and they adored it. And also the diversity in the role as well, I think was something that adored me. So, when I was scrolling through after I'd finished my bachelor in psychology and was like, what's next for me? I think OT was the main thing that I really gravitated towards.
Fantastic. Well, obviously, we're happy to have you as a fellow clinician, and um, very. I guess, colorful, maybe the right word. I don't know. With the background of, there's not many OTs that were mixing cocktails and then hitting the aged care floor as a carer and paramedic and everything in between. And you mentioned yourself as well, which is probably the one of the big parts is finishing a psychology degree. And I know you have interest in the mental health aspect, and we can look at that later on. But how great does your previous experiences lead you into being an effective community OT and well-rounded in so many different areas? That's very interesting, fantastic. So OT, it's your longest career yet, it sounds, I hope, and many years left, and not going back to bartending anytime soon,
Oh,
or
oh
is that
God.
moonlighting on the weekend?
Yeah, maybe a bit. I think I do play bartender, but only when I've got my mates coming over. They know I've got the skills there. They take advantage of it, and I'm designated. And I don't think I can take it
Yes.
any other way. You know, when we're pouring out the whiskey, my friends are like, "I'll eyeball it." I'm like, "No, get out of the way. We're about consistency here." So out come the shot glasses and the shakers.
Right. So you're not just free pouring, you're by the book, making
Oh
sure
no,
that
consistency is key. Same thing with,
good.
yeah, as I said, love coffee. I love definitely like that side with the whiskey and stuff, and
Yeah.
consistency is key, 100%.
Okay. And I guess and part of your I guess journey through your healthcare experience, but landing into the world of OT, you mentioned OT itself gravitated you uh, uh, towards that discipline. What was the actual part of the gravitation? What did you like about it? Being an OT, was it the I guess broadness of the role and being in healthcare, being able to put different I guess the broad range of clients? I mean, you'll be better at answering this than me, but what specifically drew you to the world of OT?
Yeah, well, I think you know me well enough, Jordan, to know that I'm a very 1,000 miles an hour in my approach to a bit of everything. Like it's
Mhm.
very I'm very goal oriented, and once I master something, I always kind of get a little bit like it's always on to the next for me. It's kind of the next, the next, the
Sure.
next, which
Level up.
is kind of how I've
Yeah.
had that sort of explosive growth. And that's
Yeah.
not something, that I have to work at. It's just always come naturally to me. So the OT space is great in that it's so diverse, and even within our own company, right? One
Yes.
suburb over, you might have an OT, working up in Ferny Hills that has just a completely different caseload to something that I experience. So I suppose I liked that diversity and the broadness and the fact that every client is a little bit different. And once I
Sure.
master an area in there, it's kind of I can look at the next thing, the next area to work on, the next part of my discipline to kind of move into. Because as OTs, we're kind of like I call us Swiss Army knife clinicians, in that we do a bit of everything.
Yes. Yes, and I definitely noticed that, working along OTs myself as a physio in the early days, it was great to having, a multidisciplinary team and OTs to work closely with. Just the range and scope of therapy that you can provide and the benefit to the client is definitely handy. And I like what you said around, I guess the broadness of the role. You can almost, master a particular area, and that's an extra tool for the toolkit and being a clinician, and you can then continue to build those tools in the toolkit per
I
se
think you'd be
and get that
shocked,
exposure.
Jordan, even coming out onto me the road, like out onto the road with me now, how different my caseload is from that day that you spent with me, even in
Wow.
the last 18
Okay.
months. Completely changed.
Yes. And just on that, so I know when I went out on the road with you, and we had a quite difficult,
You
maybe
watched my
ASD level
pediatrics
2 or 3.
destroy my therapy.
I
Yep.
did, and I hadn't. That was a hard one, straight up. I had to
Yep.
admit, and I think you've warned me prior, and I've been out on the road, maybe out 15 times with different disciplines, and I hadn't seen a challenging client to that level. Really difficult to have them engage, and I know you're pulling out everything in the toolkit, and sometimes obviously having a new person in the mix probably doesn't help, but I hadn't seen that challenge. So I remember having the pediatric, then we went into more the adult, mature
Yeah,
adult sort
hit
of
the mental
space,
health client.
mental
Yep.
health aspects. So, and look, I can't remember. They were my two sort of standouts. So I guess from that, when it comes to your caseload if I was to go on a day out and on the road with you now, or any of our OTs or other clinicians, what would they normally see? What's a typical day for you now?
Well, a typical day for a lot of our clinicians, I mean, Gen Physio is very pediatrics heavy just in our caseload. I mean, you look at the NDIS, right? Um,
Of course.
when you're working with pediatrics, they tend to be like lifelong clients, right? When they're
Yes.
moving through and they require a lot more like early intervention. Because at the end of the day, early intervention is very much key with a lot of your clients
Yes.
and the success of their outcomes. So that kind of just tends to mean that if you're working in the NDIS, you're probably going to have quite a pediatric heavy caseload. Um, so I was probably quite peds heavy when you first came in, which was always a space that I wasn't as interested in. But
Yes, I do remember you saying that.
yeah, but you know, when you're in this role, you make sure that you bring that passion and that sort of engagement to all of your sessions, whether or not it's something you're interested in. Because at the end of the day, we are service provider. We're providing
Yeah.
a service
Cool.
to these people, and you want the best outcomes. So for that client in particular, that just became tailoring in the OT interventions and experience to make it better suited. So I actually found, if you remember that day, we did a external like outside activities, and I realized that that was where our disengagement was really coming in, was that the gross motor need for like the stims was kind of taking over. So I
Mm,
ended up actually moving those sessions into a different environment, and we got a lot more success out of that. But
fantastic.
transitioning
Yeah.
over, yeah, now a day for me would be more looking like you'd be out on me with functional capacity assessments and
Yeah.
home care equipment seems to be my two big ones.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
almost with my taking on the RCS roles and having more supervision days. I'm almost um, exclusively a an FCA clinician now.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay.
An insane difference.
Yes, that would be, and obviously no. Which is such a great tool, I guess, kit to have in that is such an important part of getting new clients onto the NDIS and really developing sort of their needs and understanding their budgets, and it's a really critical part, a role that an OT particularly plays in an FCA predominantly. So to have that, and then the report writing skills. So how you've had to, I guess, almost report writing would be a significant part
Huge.
of your time. Yeah, if anything,
With
potentially
the
more
yeah, with the
than one on
reasonable and
one.
necessary criteria that came in, I think 4 months ago. Hard to keep track. Um, our report writing has had to increase to a whole new level. You know that wasn't as necessary before because they were really the NDIS was really
Mhm.
tightening up budgets and stuff like that.
Of
So,
course.
and writing is something that I've always found myself quite good and quite passionate at. So I
Yeah,
think I've
great.
fallen into that role because that kind of like clinical based writing style is something that's always come quite naturally to me.
Mhm.
And I was very excited to, I guess, take those foundational skills and I guess expand on them and bring them up to a new level.
Fantastic. Yeah, I guess we've all seen a lot of growth and change in the NDIS in recent years, and that's probably going to continue with the same momentum. But I guess being able to adapt, being able to pivot and adapt as a clinician is kind of what we're certainly good at now, given the fast-paced, changing environments that we're working in. So interesting. Great to see that you've been able to sort of move into the diversity of caseloads that you are wanting. And I guess we can certainly offer that, or at least aim to, for a lot of our clinicians. Sometimes it's not possible. And funny you say that. Pediatrics, certainly in your region, in that North Brisbane region, is quite heavy on on the NDIS list. But if you look at other areas, actually aged care
Mm,
seems to, even for the ROTs, will be a bigger, kind of, I guess, percentage of their caseload. So it just
definitely.
very much, yeah, depends on where which region you're working in.
100%. So I'm lucky enough that that's a lot of what I do now, which I find quite
Keep you
enjoyable.
on your
So
toes.
HCP is really enjoyable in the fact that when you're doing equipment, it's kind of like the short-term goal achievement. Like it's great when you're working
Mm,
with a child and you achieve a goal, but that's usually you're usually looking on the more long-term goal of sides. Where
mm.
aged care is great with this equipment, especially because you can kind of change somebody's life over a 2 week period
Yeah,
by
of
changing that
course.
mobility and transfer and
Yeah.
just stuff around the house. So I think that the short-term serotonin dopamine boost in my brain is probably more built towards that line of work rather than the long term. But I will say it is very rewarding when you've been working with a client or a particularly pediatric for like months and then they finally achieve it. I remember one of my first clients after six
Yes.
months tying their shoelaces without me having to do hand over hand for the first time was a big win.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, that's uh, why most of us as clinicians get into this is because of the being able to use our skills to kind of change someone's life and the feeling that you get from that rewarding feeling when they achieve their goals, when they meet what they've been working hard towards is just a phenomenal feeling, whether it's long term, short term, OTs, particularly, get that great exposure that you have a variety of different clients that come through. So fantastic. Now, community different parts of OT, but community, obviously here at Gen Physio, that's what we offer, and that's all that we do. We like to think we do it very well. Been doing it 10 years. What drew you to the world of community versus, say, any other setting as an OT? And coming on as a graduate, Brad, and obviously grown so much in your career in such short time. What have you loved about community? What drew you to that versus other forms of work settings as an OT?
I think community's very appealing to me in particular. Honestly, I come from a family background of, both my parents, dad was a construction worker, so different job sites, and mum
Mhm.
works as a broker for a large bank, and we tend to go around to like regional areas and stuff like that. So I feel like I've spent most of my life in a car seat, to be quite honest, which, something like I feel kind of almost is kind of like a cultural thing for my family is we're all strong drivers and we've all kind of like as much of the as part of the asphalt is as the line work, so I think that was always something that I was going to do, was get out in the community. But I think from a clinical perspective, it's really good to see your clients in their natural environment and in a way that they're presenting, and I think
Mm,
that gives us the ability to really tailor our interventions and our care in a way that is more specific to them and in a way
of
that's more
course.
applicable to them. Whereas if you've got a client in the hospital, obviously they're a lot more run down than usual, and a lot of the time they just want to get back home.
Mhm.
So you're not really seeing, I think, the truest version of themselves that you're seeing um, when you go out and you see somebody in the community and they welcome you into your home, which is something I
Of
always feel
course.
very grateful. I think in the level of trust that we get out of these clients when you
Yeah.
walk in and you have a cup of tea and a chat and then hopefully walk out. I always have a saying with my clients at the end of it. I say, "Do you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns for me?" And if they hesitate, I say, "Look, I always have a philosophy that I try to leave somewhere with my clients feeling happier than when I walked in. Do you feel like we
It's a
achieve
great
that
way
as
to
well?"
look at it.
And a lot of the time, it's a big yes, and if it's a no, it's kind of finding a way that I can tailor my approach or my intervention to
Mm.
turn that no into a yes.
You mentioned a lot of things there, Brad.
Yeah,
And
very
I'll
nice.
start with the last part too, because getting feedback is critical, right? And I like how you've got a specific question set that you use with your clients to really get feedback on how was today's session, how was today's consult, and then if it wasn't at the very few moments, hopefully not too many, but if it wasn't, what could I do a little bit different? How could I tailor it so next time I can meet, your expectations and get you where we both want you to go. So, and not being afraid to ask, and obviously being an experienced individual in this field, to that is just really important. Hopefully, our other earlier career clinicians can take that away as well, and not be afraid to ask those questions. And even if the client is disappointed, then it's okay. How can we solve this briefly? And then next session, we'll focus on that.
Yep. Yeah, and
So
that's something I try to sort of let my new grads know as well. And I think that the service and service provider is really something that we need to be focusing on. As OTs, we wear a lot of different hats, and as community OTs, I think in particular, sometimes our hat is really as a service provider and ensuring that our clients are happy with the services that they received. And at the end of the day, it's up to us as the service provider to tailor our service to our clients to ensure that they are
mm,
feeling happy and they are, um, you know, feeling like they're being taken care of at the end of the day.
I think just to elaborate on that, that therapeutic alliance, having that, you've used the words trust, when you're working with someone's home and you're in someone's, private place, that's essentially a big form of trust as well. And then it's also, developing a trusted relationship where essentially, you won't be able to meet your client's goals and help them on the journey if there isn't that trust, there isn't that therapeutic alliance, which is thrown around in the physio world, with your clients. So, and that's really key because you get the buy-in from your client, and you try something and it may not be effective, or you've tried a few sessions in an area and it hasn't worked. They will still want to work hard to make you happy and make you proud, and almost like more than to help themselves. And if you can do the journey together and using the asking the right questions, getting the right feedback, how key is that? So yeah, that's definitely a few take homes for the listeners. And you've also mentioned, and I've heard this multiple times now, and that is the great part about community is that, essentially being in a client's home, seeing what their surroundings are like, and being in the moment, it is far easier and superior to then running an assessment and providing treatment in a controlled hospital setting or a sort of generic environment. So definitely, I think we have an advantage as community clinicians to tailor our sessions a much better in the home environment where they spend most of their time. So you also mentioned strong driver, and I have to, and it's in the family now. For the audience that's listening, Brad has to be a strong driver because before he got a fancy new company car, I think most of us would have been fearful of our lives. I certainly was for a few moments when I got into your car. What was your car prior, Brad? Because I'm surprised it was still going even after the year or two that I thought it was on its last legs. But you
Yeah,
must have given it a new kick of life or something.
that was a Daewoo Leganza, which is a Korean car that they don't actually make anymore. And yes, I was on the motorway at 120 k's an hour when I felt something rattle and fall off the back. I was in the overtaking lane as well. I headed down to my niece's christening, and felt something rattle. I saw my revs go a little bit crazy. I've got the flashing lights, and I very had to very calmly and casually cross all the way over from the right hand lane, and pull over without my power steering working.
Wow. So, look, a strong driver, I think, is accurate because if you could get around in that vehicle for so long and still be in one piece, you're
I
definitely great
definitely
on the
am
road.
appreciating the Gen Physio fleet car. I've
Would have
got a
been an
reverse
upgrade.
camera now and stuff, which
Oh,
is like a night and day. So good.
great. Well, look, glad we can offer. I know we offered that to you a couple times. You had the solid trust in your own car. We thought
No,
you
I'd made her a promise that I was going to ride her until she died, and that's how it went down. So
look,
yeah, so
commitment to
that was
getting the
great.
most use out of it. So fantastic. All right. All things community, we love that on the road, in the clients' homes. The vehicle is a key tool for us to get around. And glad you're in the safety of our beautiful Toyota Corollas moving
Yep,
forward.
I
So,
survived.
outside of the car breaking down, and it sounds like it wasn't during work hours, which is fantastic. What has been, I guess, the biggest challenge for you as an community OT, or unexpected thing that's happened for you working on the road? Is there
It's a
anything that comes to
challenge.
mind?
I mean, every day has small challenges that come with it. And as OTs, we're literally trained to educate others or to problem solve and adapt. So I'd say every day has had their little sort of problems or little workarounds, but yeah, I just take the challenges on and I try to adjust. I don't really see there being any kind of like massive sort of standout faux pas
Hmm.
or issues. It's just a matter of the workaround. You know, if the client doesn't have enough funding, well, then we advocate for them in ways that they can get it. Can they go through, you know, like Parkinson's Australia or Autism Australia, you know, which had their funding pass. Mass is one that's just gone through the hospital. We look at a change of circumstance. You know, if you've got a piece of equipment that's not quite working out, well, what can we look at? You know, if we have a floor hoist that's not working for the client, well, maybe we look at like, you know, the camel manga into the hoist instead. Which I'm actually very grateful. I came into a part in the OT sort of space where adaptive technology is taking off. It's incredible how much we have available now that, you
Mm.
know,
It's
OTs
hard to keep up.
prior to me just didn't have, you know. So yeah, there's nothing really that stands out to me because every day presents with a new challenge of some variety, and I just think it's part of my job and my role to really adapt and to problem solve.
I like that approach, Brad. So glass half full guy, love that about you, but also, the small speed bumps that we all inevitably get as clinicians in the community. It's about how we can problem solve, get past it, and again pivot and adapt to each of those challenges. So love that. No big, I guess, challenge, but problem solving and working your way through all the
No
smaller
big
challenges.
challenge that can't be overcome, you know, with the approach of understanding resilience, and I think that's where I'm lucky in that all of the
Mhm.
experiences that I've had in my background, you know, all of the different fields, is that I've had a lot of challenges and a lot of things that have come up that may have thrown me for a
Mm,
loop. And you know, if it
sure.
was Brad 10 years ago, maybe some of these things would have come up and we would have had that breakdown. But I think where I am now is that we teach window of tolerance in the OT field, and my window of tolerance is the largest it's ever been. So it takes quite a lot to throw me for a loop these days.
Yeah, good. And I guess obviously having all your different experiences and different environment work settings prior to being an OT is giving you that resilience as well. Fantastic. So, what would you say if a clinician first job is being an OT and they're wanting to build a thick skin and feel confident in what they do? Is there any sort of words of wisdom for our new grad or early career clinicians to help them overcome what they might initially feel is a complex or challenging client, but once they stick at it and they realize that they actually have a lot to give more than they believe? Is there anything that you could give words of advice for those team members?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes, I think is the big one. Especially at a company like Gen Physio, you've got a great support team backing you up,
Mm,
and I think that kind of, I guess, intimidation of getting in somewhere and potentially, you know, encountering that is what holds a lot of people back. But at the end of the day, a thick skin, I think, comes from making those mistakes. You learn more from making mistakes, unfortunately, than you do through your successes. And I think
mhm.
that experience
You do.
is the most important thing. So I think I always say to my new grads, you know, be confident and try to jump in and get that experience and engage where you can. And if you think you've hit
Mm,
that point where it's definitely beyond you, well, then that's something where we like kind of look back, we upskill, we shadow, you know, we can train
yeah, I
with
like
the
that.
concept and that idea of then we will get in and have that experience. So yeah, um, and I know a lot of OTs in particular can kind of have that. I think what they call uh,
Not
what's the word
imposter
I'm looking for?
syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Yeah, that's exactly the
I
one I'm looking
just-
for. And I always say, look, you've done your 1,000 hours, you did your 4 year degree, you know this stuff. You just need to take that deeper breath, look at your client from the perspective as an OT, and then go from there.
Fantastic. So really, jumping in, giving it a go, rely on the support network that we have on offer here as a larger community provider, and essentially, okay, if it doesn't work, if a mistake or what you might seem as a mistake, and there is another saying, it's not a mistake, but it's just a lesson learned. I can't remember the call, but I personally I love that approach because that's how I certainly got into it as a young physio a little over 10 years ago now is certainly can be confronting and perhaps having that imposter syndrome, which I really don't like those words because if you do stick in there, if you have a go, if you rely on your network, that initial feeling of being unsure is normal, and that's why I don't like those imposter syndrome words because you can get through that. You can rely on your peers, believe in yourself, and you don't have to master and solve the client's world's problems on the first session or even second or even third. We're not a private practice model where our clients are lasting weeks, if not months, if not years with us. And it's, if your first session, I remember one new grad said, I had a really hard session. I didn't do anything. I felt so bad. And I said, what happened? Well, the clinician the client was crying the whole time and was just so happy that someone was there to help them and was going through all their challenges. I didn't do anything because the time ran out. And I said, that's actually fantastic because at the end of the day, you didn't try and force something when the client on treatment or doing something that the client wasn't ready for. That first session was building that trust and that therapeutic alliance where, next session, that's when you can have a go. So
Yeah.
the good thing with us is we don't have to solve the world's problems in the first session,
Yeah.
and having confidence yourself to have another go and use those question sets that you've enlightened us today with around how was it, what could I do different, or and problem solving together.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. And that's something that a lot of newer clinicians struggle with is kind of we want to get in, we want to problem solve, we want to get all those interventions running off the ground, but we do need to understand we are health practitioners, and what we have with our clients is a relationship of sorts, and we need to really cultivate that rapport and that relationship with them
Rapport,
and
good
build that
word.
trust and that, yeah, as you
Mm,
said, rapport to ensure that we can get the most out of our intervention. I remember I had one client that I'm still working with at the moment, and my big mistake as a new grad was just trying to get in and problem solve and get the interventions in place. And that rapport broke down, and essentially the client
mm,
kind of, a child of 12, basically associated me with hard work, and so I'd show up and
mm,
they would immediately dysregulate because there goes their afternoon
yeah.
of fun and enjoyment, and here's the OT to make me do worksheets. And
Mm,
fortunately now I've managed to repair that relationship with the client by recognizing that, sometimes therapy is, comforting somebody that's crying. Sometimes therapy
yeah,
is playing
yeah.
games with that client that's a bit wary of us. Sometimes therapy is just going for a walk around the neighborhood and talking about how life is.
Mm. With the broadness that comes with us being clinicians at times, or almost, and particularly as an OT, it's almost putting the case manager hat on rather than taking off the OT. How can I help the client in a different way and build that trust so then next time they'll have trust in me to put on that OT hat on and get those worksheets done or work towards what's going to help them, but not coming in 1,000 miles an hour and when the client's not meeting you even halfway of what you and understanding what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. As I said, we're a Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. And this is some great words of confidence for a lot of clinicians, particularly our early career clinicians, around what can be a normal session. There is no maybe abnormal because every session has its differences, and being able to mold and gel with that. So it's fantastic. Now we have only got a couple minutes left, Brad. It's been great speaking with you so far. I'm going to do what's called a quick fire round, just a
All right.
bunch of random questions to finish off the session. Now, first, go to lunch on the road. Have you got a go to lunch place, or do you pack your own lunch, or how do you operate each day
I'm
when you're on the
I'm
road?
actually really terrible, and I'm sure if any dietitians out there are listening to this will be quite mad at me. My go-to is a coffee throughout the day, maybe a protein shake, and then a big dinner. I'm pretty terrible for
Wow.
fasting. Yeah.
So, look, I thought you were going to say the McDonald's drive-through. There's not many clinicians I've said, at least admitted that that's what they do on the day to day. So that's definitely not as bad.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not a McDonald's daily person.
Special occasions, right? Fantastic. Okay, and coffee order. You said you're a coffee man. Could have been a
Usually, yeah,
barista.
cappuccino, extra small with an extra shot, a bit of Zimmel milk, but I've moved on to the piccolos
Oof.
now because they're a bit quicker and lower calories. I'm trying to cut.
Nice. So cutting out the lactose-free milk because of the calories, and you're going a bit more straight for the goods.
Straight for the
Low.
caffeine boost.
Yeah,
I'd get it straight into the
I'm
veins,
with
but
you on that. I'm a long black all the way, and I had a little bit of milk once for the first time in years, and I had to throw the coffee out.
yeah.
So yeah, once you experience that, it's impossible to go back.
If your coffee doesn't hurt me a little bit when I drink it, I don't want it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the true flavor. Okay, best Spotify playlist and or podcast. Is there something that you go to
I
quite frequently?
do. I'll more listen to YouTube. So there's a YouTube like kind of series that I listen to a lot called it's by a writer called Hello Future Me, and it's called On
Mm.
Writing. So basically, it breaks down, looks at different sort of thoughts of writing and different genres, approaches, styles, tenses, all that sort of thing.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
And phrase you say most often in a car.
In a car, uh, I think probably the phrase that I most say often would be getting into the car and what's next, where am I off to next?
Nice. Okay. And dream road trip destination.
Dream road trip destination, the trip home at the end of a long day.
Yeah, that's always a good one, right? Fantastic. No trip up to Cairns, down to Tassie, just being able to
If I
get
could
home
drive
after
my
a
car to
successful
Europe,
day.
if I could drive my car to Europe, that would probably be the dream one.
Well, it
But
wouldn't be your previous car. I think they wouldn't
oh
make
god,
it.
no, yeah,
Okay, fantastic. So, love that. A trip home after a successful day out on the road. Fantastic. And I guess the last question I have for you, what's one tip you'd give to someone starting in the community for the first time, whether a new graduate or experienced, and learning the world of being mobile like us here at Gen Physio?
yeah, be open to new experiences. Always be make sure that you're friendly, and as I said, you're tailoring your service to your client, and never
Mm.
park in the driveway because if your car breaks down, it's very awkward for everyone involved.
Wow. And has that happened to you in the past? Is that one of
My
your
my key
lower?
snapped off in the lock, and
Oh,
I had to ask for a tool set so I could dig the end of it out with a screwdriver, and then I had to get a friend come pick me up so I could get a key tailored. And luckily, it was Thursday because it was my last client for the day, so the shops were still open for late night. So I managed to get it
oh.
repaired out of their way before the morning. But I've never been more embarrassed during a
Be
session.
mindful where you park. That's a
Yes.
good tip for anyone. Thanks, Brad. Look, I really enjoyed today's session with you, and love the history and your perspective that you bring into the world of OT, particularly as a clinical supervisor here and supporting a lot of our team members on their day to day. I know a lot of our listeners will have a few little gold nuggets they can take away from this session. So, Brad. Thank you very much for your
My pleasure.
time. One last question. Part of this, we have a $50 gift voucher, which is called a Mentwell gift card. So you can use it only for health and wellness. So I'll send that to you after this. What would you use your $50 on?
Um, it's got to be on health or wellness. So it's got to probably going to be a supplement for the gym, or my fiance is getting absolutely thrashed at work at the moment, so I might cheat a little bit and get her a massage because I think she could probably use it a bit more than me right now.
Good man. You got to invest in those brownie points.
Oh,
Hold
100%.
on.
If she's happy, I'm happy.
That's it. Happy wife, happy life. I definitely
Not
know that
quite
for
yet,
sure.
yeah, yeah, but we're
Yeah.
getting there.
All right, Brad. We'll have a fantastic afternoon. Thanks for today and all the best. Bye
Later,
for
buddy.
now.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.